So let's just say someone is dealing with mental health and a mental health problem. Could they just call NAMI directly?
They can call us directly. We have and we have classes. So oftentimes we talk to somebody and figure out, well, where are they? What do they need? What is the issue they're trying to deal with? And then we can direct them to one of our educational classes, or we can direct them to a support group, or if they want to ask about services outside of NAMI, where can I see a psychiatrist? I need to see a therapist. I need transportation. All those issues, we'll help them figure that out. But I think the thing that we're probably best known for is the education and the support.
And that's something that's not just for individuals with mental health issues, also for their families?
It's especially for families. I often think that if you don't have a support group, if you have a mental illness and you don't have people that care about you around you, you're going to have a very, very difficult time in society. That's where we see so many people either on the street or homeless, and they've lost that connection with their family. So we work with families to try to help them learn how to learn about mental health issues and mental illness, but then how to be supportive and kind of what expectations.
How can they be supportive?
I think by listening. I think that's where we start. By listening to the person, by being empathetic. It's hard, if you're hearing voices or you have behaviors that aren't normal, that's difficult. So, and we blame the person too often who has the mental illness. So we try to teach people how to be empathetic, and then we try to teach them how to find areas of agreement, things that the person with the illness wants. And that may be, I don't want to take all the medication that has been prescribed. So let's find a solution for that. I want to find my own place to live. Housing turns out to be one of the most critical issues for people. And too oftentimes people with a mental illness have kind of, I'll say, worn out their welcome in their home. And they need a place to live. But in San Antonio and in most communities, finding a place to live for somebody with a serious mental illness is tough. We also then, I think the fourth step in that process is we encourage them to learn how to partner with their family member. Mm-hmm. So you want a job, you want to work, find a job, let me help you find a job, or we'll work on that together. So all those issues that are so difficult to navigate for somebody with a mental illness, you learn how to be a partner with them and how to walk that journey with them.
What's the biggest mistake you think that families make when they have somebody in their family who has a serious mental illness?
So I was teaching a class, and we had this couple in the class, and we had a guy who was about 6'4" and 260 and a barbecue champion and all, and he raised his hand about the third class and said, "What do you do when you figure out everything you've been doing is wrong?" So I said, "Then you get to join the club," because that's where we've all been. So what's the biggest mistake? I think maybe starting out is not giving ourselves enough grace. And I think sometimes we want our family member, our loved one, we want them to be, we have expectations, and it's putting our expectations on them. But it's just like you don't ask somebody with a heart condition to run 4 miles, or you don't ask people with other illnesses to live up to your expectations. If you're diabetic, you're going to take some medication. So it's learning what are good strategies for being healthy. I know we've talked about some of the things that are not medication that are important. And I find that if people do diet, exercise, socialization, avoiding risky behaviors, and medication, seeing a therapist, it's all those combined. So people are whole people, and we don't just want to treat the mind or deal with that. We have to treat the whole person. When you do that, the outcomes are better. People take less medication, and they do better over time.
How would you describe the difference between a mental illness versus a serious mental illness?
Well, serious mental illness is going to be defined as something that's chronic, lifetime. It typically involves a biochemical brain disorder. And I think the difference is when a person goes from year after year after year after year with this same condition, and that's what we mean by chronic and lifetime. I think that's where you kind of cross over into this. And some illnesses, I've known people with bipolar disorder or extreme depression who get better, and those are serious mental illnesses. So it doesn't mean that somebody with a serious mental illness can't enjoy some of the things in life, achieve some of the goals. I know I had a family member who developed schizophrenia when he was 18, and yet he worked for 20 years, and he had serious mental illness. But it was because he was living in a community where there were resources and there was an ability to help him, and he was accepted into the work environment. Now, he was a volunteer. He didn't get paid. It didn't matter. But he did very, very well. So I think our whole perception of people with serious mental illness, sometimes we need to readjust that. Yes, they're ill, but it doesn't mean they're incapacitated for the rest of their life.
What do you think people are missing from this conversation? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we do see people with green ribbons and talking about mental health, but I'm afraid that people with, and I was talking about the acronym of serious mental illness, that's relatively new, that you hear people making that distinction.
So I think what the average person is missing is the prevalence in society of mental illness and serious mental illness. When you know the statistics, 1 in 4 people will experience a mental health disorder. And for some of those people, it will be episodic and they may recover from that. But for 7% of the population, it's chronic and lifetime. So if you take, for example, 7% of 2 million people in Bexar County, that's 140,000 people who have a serious mental illness. And yet 50% of those people will never get help in their lifetime. And if you look at, well, where do the people get help? If we talk about our own local mental health authority, they have a capacity of about 35,000 people. And then there's a group of people that can maybe afford to get some care. But any way you look at it, half the population, 70,000 people, are going to live in our community during their whole life without getting any help. That's what people are missing. The other piece that people are missing is the support systems. If we would do a better job of providing support for people.
What does that mean, though?
Better job?
What does support mean?
Support, for example, NAMI has 3 apartment complexes. They're small. We'd like to do more, but that's a community of, let's say, 14 to 15 units where people live independently. They live in a community. They know each other and they support one another. So support means helping people find housing, helping people find a job, helping people with food insecurity, helping people with transportation, and helping people with socialization. I think support, for example, today we just had our monthly membership meeting, our monthly meeting for NAMI. Everybody's welcome. So people come who have a diagnosis, people come who are family members, caregivers. Everybody's in the room together. Well, what I love about it is everybody's talking to each other. And one of my board members said, I really like coming to these meetings, because I learn so much. I mean, when you sit down and talk to somebody who is dealing with all those issues, it begins to be real, okay? And I think part of what you ask about what's wrong in our community is not enough people have real contact with somebody that has a serious mental illness and may need help. And I think too many times when somebody recognizes that there's a family member who needs help, they don't want to see that. they don't want to acknowledge that that's a mental illness or mental health issue. That's the stigma. So that's a large part of what NAMI does, is we try to destigmatize the mental illness and create opportunities for people to live in our community as normal individuals.